Hey everybody, welcome back. I am returning again for another YouTube tier list ranking. Haven't done this in a very long time, but since I've been going through a lot of Batman stuff recently with comic book reviews and the TV shows recently, I want to cover as many Batman rogues as I possibly could. And what I have in terms of selections, whether they're D-listers all the way up to the A-listers, is like 86 in total. So I have like a good, significant amount of selections here, and I'll be covering a little bit of certain characters here and there, aside from ones that we pretty much all know, like Joker and everything like that. But I also want to bring up the fact that I left out Harley Quinn and Catwoman from the list because at this point in time, they're pretty much superheroes in their own right. Harley, at the very least, is an anti-hero. So I can't really, at this point in time, qualify them as in terms of villains as part of Batman's rogues gallery anymore. I think they very much shifted from that. I also want to make sure that because I always want to talk about this, the pictures I selected all are interpretations of my favorite interpretations of the particular character that I thought was a lot more appealing to me as opposed to any other interpretation. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead into this. But before I continue, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. Let me know, do you agree with me in terms of going to be have to blow this up for you guys so that way you can all see what I'm seeing. So here we are. Now, also included Batman Beyond characters because I mentioned in my Batman Beyond reviews that I want to rank all like the Batman Beyond villains and just turned it into like just Batman in general. So we'll have like a significant selection here. So it's 86 characters. Now, we'll start off with Chimera or Kyrie from Batman Beyond, where he pretty much, had that splicing episode that kids are getting into. And he's making pretty much like, messing with people's DNA. He was fun. And I kind of wish we had done more with this particular character. In certain Batman Beyond characters, I made enough of a return like Ink, because I think Ink had the most returns out of all the Batman Beyond villains. He was very interesting. You could have done a lot with this guy where Batman dealing with people will splice with, animal DNAs that essentially turn them into metahumans with animal powers. So you can have done something with that. How would I rank him? Because it was a solid, well, I shouldn't count it because it's like the episode itself, but the character himself. He definitely, had like an air of menace to him. In terms of being memorable, it's very average. So for now, I'm just gonna put him as C. It's very average. Anarchy. Anarchy showed up in quite a few things over the years. I think two interpretations that really made him soar, in my opinion, in terms of like a legit adversary for Batman to deal with, is the Arkham Origins interpretation, where he's like a side, mission character, and then Beware the Batman. They had 2 seasons, that make kind of anarchy like the Joker, like proto Joker in a way, because anarchy is pretty much like the mirror reflection of Batman, who, I mean, he's all about order, and he's like all about anarchy, but they both fight in the establishment in like two different ways. Lonnie Machen, the teenage prodigy, creates improvised gadgets in order to subvert government. His violent methods set him, Batman, and Robin at odds. Now, here's the thing. I think Beware the Batman had like the best version of anarchy, but I like the whole thing with, because typically anarchy in the comics is depicted as like a teenager, or at the most, early 20s something, where he's like, the rebellious stage fighting the establishment kind of thing. But Beware the Batman has him like physically capable of hanging with Batman rather than some dweeb that Batman can easily swat like a fly. So I don't know. It's like, I think Beware the Batman had like the best character. They did that character so perfectly. Just going off of that, I want to put Anarchy in the A tier, A for Anarchy, because he was really good. I really like, at least those two interpretations of Anarchy. I like them the best. Now we got Baby Doll, and she has an amazing. Her first appearance was in the animated series was amazing, so heartfelt, and so menacing. And just this grown woman inside this young girl's body, just like twisted up mind, where she just cannot grow up because she's just perpetually stuck as a young girl that just can't be taken seriously based off her appearance. And it's just that the way that episode ended, I didn't mean to. It's just like Batman showing empathy for a villain that he more often than not does, and it's like you feel bad for them. At least a good portion of them, he feels bad that they didn't ask for this kind of, and that's what makes like a solid Batman villain, where it's like you feel bad for them because most of these people didn't ask for what has been done to them. So he has that level of empathy for these people. Baby Doll's, her second appearance wasn't all that good, but we could have had a lot more Baby Doll in the comics, because you can do a lot with this. She's fun. I would put her a B. I think she's like slightly above average. Bane is a contender. We all know Bane. I use the Arkham Origins version of Bane because I think that is like the proper size of Bane, because some interpretations like Arkham Asylum made him too grotesquely big, and then Batman and Robin, he was just like a brute dummy, which is not Bane at all. Horrible version of him. But I think and then the Nolan Bane, I like him, but Nolan just trying to separate himself from like the comic bookiness of Bane with the Venom formula and stuff like that, which is a part of the character. That's what takes me out of that being my favorite interpretation of Bane. So the anime series, his first appearance in that and this is my favorite interpretation of Bane. So I just went with the Arkham Origins version. And I'm going to put him S tier. Because the fact that after I just did my Batman Nightfall comic book review, which is up on my channel, so please check that out. It was a very long one. As I went over Bane's origins as well as the Nightfall volume, this dude was one of the handful of characters that actually put Batman through his paces and beat him for the most part, which not many characters can say they done. Where he put Batman through his paces and pretty much like had to exhaust him in order to pounce and get like a shot at him. Batmite. Now, obviously, Brave and the Bold did like an amazing job highlighting a lot of low tier characters, and Batmite is honestly, one of my favorite characters in that show, and the voice actor is amazing as well. And we need to do a lot more with Batmite because he's so much fun, way better than Mr. Mixes Picklick. Even though he's good in some cases, but I think Batmite just edges him out slightly, given the fact that Batmite is just Batman fans personified. Just we look at Batman like almost like a deity that can't do wrong. And the fourth wall breaks is so much fun. He's just a great character, and I really wish they do a lot more with him. Me personally, I'll put him S tier because he's such a great character. Not necessarily like a villain, but it's just like the not toxic fandom, but it could get toxic fandom. You could speak on toxic fandom with Batmite as like a antithesis to Batman fans in the real world, where they just think Batman is just the beast knees above all and anybody, and to a dangerous level where they forget why Batman is Batman in the first place, where it's just like but he's not a bad guy, but it just could easily turn wrong, and it does quickly. Now you got Black Mass. I chose Arkham Origins versions of this one because his other solid iteration was in Under the Red Hood movie. I like that version. Also, Ewan McGregor's Birds of Prey Black Mass was pretty good too. But personally, I like the Arkham Origins interpretation slightly better. And he's just, like a mob boss with just a gimmick. He doesn't necessarily need powers for that, but he's just like a sadist in a way. So he's just fine. He's slightly better than most gangsters like Falcone or Boss Maroni in that way. But I'll put him like a high C, honestly. Derek Powers, Blight. This dude was a menace in his own right, man, because the fact that it was not that dissimilar to maybe like somebody like Lex Luthor in terms of, gaining power and using like Bruce Wayne's company to mishandle it in ways that will be unethical, but gain more money, and then, selling like, certain things to certain organizations he should not be selling weapons to. And then turns into just pretty much just radioactive monster, and it just became more like crazy. And he, definitely like a powerhouse, honestly, as well as kind of like methodical at the same time, where it's just like he pulls the strings, and he actually went toe to toe with somebody like Mr. Freeze, which is kind of insane. Derek Powers is like amazing, and like honestly, because if Joker was Bruce's arch enemy, Blight will be on that level with Terry McGinnis. So I'm gonna put him in the S tier. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna cut to the chase. Joker, S tier. I'm not even gonna be bothered with like questioning that. It's obvious. He's S tier. Now we got Blockbuster. It was pretty much just like a strong guy, and some interpretations is kind of like a, like in the first 2000s, like PS4 Spider-Man, the first one, where you see like Tombstone as like leader of a biker gang. Certain interpretations of Blockbuster has him like at the most on that level, but he doesn't leave much of an impact. I don't really care. He's very, very low tier in terms of he's just like a strong guy, you know. But in most cases, people probably use him as like a thug, or at least their muscle. This is F tier for me. I really don't care for blockbuster like that. Calendar Man. Calendar Man, I really wish if I was directing or writing a Batman movie, I really want Calendar Man to be like the main villain, because a serial killer that commits crimes on holidays is very interesting. And considering this day and age that almost every month at this point has some type of holiday or awareness day or awareness month and all these little things, it's insane. Calendar Man will probably have a field day that you can't really interpret where he will strike on what given like holiday, which makes him very scary. And of course, you can still, utilize Batman's detective skills because he's trying to catch this guy that always slips away, and you don't know who he will be targeting most of the time. And in the Arkham game, it was so cool that, just so you know, in case you don't know, if you have like Arkham City game and you go to the courthouse in the basement, Calendar Man is locked up. He's surrounded by all these counters. And if you use the setting in whatever game that you're playing and move the date to a particular month, and you go into the courthouse and see him again, and every time he talks to you, he will recite some kind of unique line given the month that you set. Like June, he will make a reference to Father's Day, or December, Christmas, October, Halloween, etc. I thought that was a very unique gimmick. But he is a very interesting character. Now, most people don't have Calendar Man, in their line of sight, because most like DC doesn't really prop up this character, which there's a lot of these characters here that got on this list. At least half of them should be propped up a lot more and could be like a serious threat in a movie or a TV show that doesn't need to be sent around as Joker or Bane or Ra's al Ghul to be the main threat. So to be fair, just, average out, because some people might view Calendar Man as very low tier, and I would put him in A tier, but that thing like, nah, it's too high. So let's break even and put him in B, because he can be a serious thing. All right, Catman. Thomas Blake was a world famous trapper of jungle cats who turned to crime because he had grown bored with hunting and squandered most of his fortune. He became a burglar who committed his crimes in a cat suit made out of an ancient African cloth he believes gives him a cat's 9 lives. Very low. I mean, you could do something interesting in this guy, but he seems more like maybe a Catwoman type of enemy than a Batman enemy. But because I guess it rhymes, people thought it was kind of, yeah. But this is low tier. Maybe somebody can utilize this, because I could see potential in this. I think the first time I actually saw Catman was in Brave and the Bold, and I'm pretty sure he was voiced by Adam West. Clayface. Now, there's been at least 3 or 4 interpretations of Clayface, but the main 2 people recall is like Basil Carlo and was one with the animated series. Matt Hagen. Yeah, that was one. Matt Hagen. Oh, wait a minute. Matt Hagen, Preston Payne, Cadius Payne. Technically, there's 5, because Ethan Bennett, if you watch The Batman, he was technically Clayface. So there were technically five interpretations, but I went with Matt Hagen because he's more familiar to a lot of people. But it's considered like a mashup here, and I don't like the Harley Quinn TV show version of Clayface. I know it's a interpretation, but I think I got so tired of this whole eccentric thespian attitude. It's kind of worn thin. But I think Matt Hagen's interpretation is probably like the ideal version. And he's such a threat. It's like very like T-1000 kind of thing, where it's like such a one of the most lethal of Batman villains early on, and he is awesome. Like an awesome character, awesome background, especially with Matt Hagen. So I'm putting like A tier in my opinion. He's very high. Clue Master. I just recently watched an episode of The Batman with Clue Master, which is like a fat guy who got apparently cheated out of a gaming show as a kid. And of course, most interpretations of Clue Master, he's like a very cut dude. I went with the comic version of him, and there's a more on Clue Master. Clue Master Arthur Brown was a game show host until he turned to a life of crime. He is also the father of Stephanie Brown, also known as Spoiler. The Clue Master apparently died during the time that he was in the Suicide Squad. Crap. What was that? DC. Because what his skills are. Unlike most Batman villains, Clue Master is completely sane, which gives him a unique relationship with Batman. Clue Master has no metahuman powers. He has a number of plexiglass pellets attached to his front of his uniform. Pellets contain various offensive weaponry, including blinding, incendiary flares, smoke, incapacitating gas, and explosive. And that's it. DC database. Genius intellect, tactical analysis, business management, leadership. Yeah. So you're just kind of smart. I'm putting D. I gotta put somebody in D. And like he's useful and unique, but there's nothing to write home about because he's pretty much like discount Riddler in my opinion. Commissioner Loeb. Now, if you remember, because like I said, these are various types of movies, comics, TV shows, that I'm taking this from games. So to represent my favorite interpretation of this particular character. And for Loeb is like Batman Year One animated movie. I think that is like a good interpretation of Loeb, where he's just like not a unique he is like a threat to Batman, but not something that Batman can take on head on. He has to deal with him like in a unique way. More so, he's Commissioner Gordon's kind of adversary, where he's just a corrupt police official. He's definitely had like a bit of an impact early on in Batman's career, but we never see him since then. We'll begin into other like criminal mob bosses down the line, but he's one that definitely recognizable from most Batman fans. But if they are all being good, faithful, and honest, they know this dude doesn't leave much of an impact. So I'm putting him on a D list too. Condiment King. Had to do it. Had to put Comet King on the list because he became just like a fun character down the line. Kind of like with Kite Man, who is on the list, just became one of those kind of fun characters. But I think Kite Man got a lot more love because of that Harley Quinn show, and of course, Condiment King in that show was like his little arch enemy. It was kind of funny, but my favorite interpretation was the animated series version, which was just like a joke, brainwashed villain, or a person that was robbing people with condiments, but he just became like people just like a canonized villain that weaponized condiments. It's fun, but biases aside, in all honesty, it's like, yeah, he's low tier. I'm not going to front. Now we got Control Freak, where in the comics it's known as Film Freak, but I took the Teen Titans version of Control Freak because I like that interpretation better, where it's just like a couch potato with a super technological remote controller that beams people into TV shows, or he can just travel between like TV into the real world just to utilize, in various ways. It's fun. As a matter of fact, it's like a Control Freak. Okay. Self-proclaimed arch nemesis was an overweight and unshaven movie fanatic notorious for using his super remote control to warp reality to suit his movie-inspired images. Of course, in the comics, he's just like kind of like a weirdo movie director with a camera kind of situation. But I think this version is more people's favorite because he was fun. I really wish they'd done more with Control Freak in Teen Titans. But anyway, however, he rarely uses great intellect, trying to instead build up his persona of a famous supervillain. Upon finding out that he is not on the Titans list of notorious villains for real, he angrily exclaims that he is a recurring villain and therefore should be on the list. His first encounter the Teen Titans when he was terrorizing a video store, threatening them to add Warp Track 5 to their list of top movies. He later commandeered a TV station and drew the Titans into a world of various kinds of TV programs, where Beast Boy defeated him by trapping him into a pocket dimension. He later escaped and challenged the Teen Titans East into a superhero contest to prove themselves as worthy as the main West division of heroes. Cosmic Awareness. Control Freak broke the fourth wall numerous times, even mentioning episodes by name. Which else, because they try to put Harley Quinn as like a fourth wall breaker, which they just trying to apply Deadpool to her, which does not work for her character. It's just, you just don't know what to do with her. And I think Margot Robbie's version of Harley Quinn, or the animated series version of Harley Quinn, or the Arkham Games version of Harley Quinn, are the appropriate ones that you should just apply to the comics. It's like a right balance. But Control Freak is like, honestly, given like what we saw from Teen Titans, fits his character given the fact that he goes in TV, so he will be full knowledgeable of a cosmic awareness. So it works for him, which makes him fun and deadly. Hand-to-hand combatant and hands. He knows Kung Fu. Control Freak was instructed in Kung Fu by an alien martial arts teacher. He learned very quickly and actually beat the Teen Titans in a fist fight. Swordsmanship. Yeah, I mean, like, given the fact that he controls TV, he can utilize all kinds of knowledge, from various teachers from different types of movies that knows about that particular arc, and he can utilize that to, fight the heroes. It makes them very, very deadly. remote control, reality alteration, teleportation. So yeah, Control Freak is so much fun. So anybody? Oh, and by the way, I meant to do this since I'm talking about like a Batman thing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Harley Quinn, nice to meet ya.
This is actually fun. I really think I should do one for Superman at some point in the future, like rank all his rogues, and maybe some other superheroes down the line, because this is, like Flash or somebody. But Control Freak, I will put him like a, not A, but like a high B. Copperhead. Now I seen Copperhead in the Justice League Unlimited TV show. That one was a male, and that was my first interpretation of Copperhead. My first introduction to Copperhead. I never knew who that villain like was until years later. I thought he was just some weird snake guy. Don't know who enemy he was for until later. But then Arkham Origins came around, and of course, I like the fact that it added in to the narrative because he's one of the assassins, where some people don't even know. She's so mysterious that some people don't know if that was if Copperhead was supposed to be a man or a woman, hinting at the male version that we probably more familiar with from the TV show. But they went with this. I'm pretty sure she's Brazilian or some, or no, South American interpretation of Copperhead. And I like this version. And like a lot of the bosses in Arkham Origins, they are really good. People sleep on Arkham Origins. That game is so much fun. One of my favorite games, and honestly, probably slightly better than the first Arkham Asylum game. There's so much, fun you can have for that game. I played it at least 3 times, man. It's so much fun. And Copperhead was usually bosses can get on your nerves, but the devs behind the scenes did such an impressive job with making the bosses challenging, but so much fun at the same time. And it's difficult to walk that balance because sometimes bosses can easily be annoying, but on rare occasions, like you don't feel like you got much of a challenge if you can just outwardly just beat like the boss in like maybe like 1 minute. But she was very fun. But I'll put her as C, because I'll put her like a high C, because I can't honestly put her like a Mel. Can I put her in B? Because many interpretations of Copperhead isn't as good as this interpretation. I think it's just strictly unique to this game. If all Copperheads from comics behave like this, I would have ranked it as B at the most. But right now, I just put it like a high C. Court of Owls. Now, I'm not a huge fan of New 52, but there was like a few things out of that was very, very good that I have to give it credit where credit is due. And Court of Owls was one of the stories in New 52 that really introduced like a new organization outside of the League of Shadows that Batman just having a tough time dealing with. Another group of villains that actually put Batman through his paces, like seriously, trapping him in a maze and making him go crazy and stuff like that. That is just like a whole nother level of like, wow. And they've been around since Gotham's creation, where they just like, descendants from other Court of Owls, and they just high society hidden people that just manipulating things behind the scenes. It's just scary. There's a whole nother level of scary that people like just do not want to deal with, honestly, because they can easily be everywhere, especially with their little assassin Talon. Easily can hunt you down, and you just cannot go anywhere at all. There's nowhere you can escape because they're gonna send somebody after you. And it's like you hide around the corners. There's nowhere you can hide. It's like literally like that's a whole nother level of anxiousness, fear, and paranoia, all that stuff, man. And literally, they caused the death of Bruce's grandfather or great grandfather, one of the two. When they there was anybody get close to finding them out, I'll put them A or S. A or S. Well, because of the fact that it's just people at the end of the day, very influential people, but still people nonetheless, I'll put on like an A tier because it's still like a whole nother level of fear. Like I said, anyway, popping in. So continue on. Crazy Quilt. Now, like he was a very Silver Age villain, but I think people were introduced to him in the Brave and the Bold episode, where he's kind of like a Robin villain, or he just became a Robin villain. But Crazy Quilt, just like kind of sort of like a blind guy. Okay. Well, that doesn't help. Paul Decker. Crazy Quilt was blinded by Robin when he used a high-powered laser from the stimulation mission. And it's usually some other machine that kind of makes him blind, but also only see in, not blind, but see only in like blurred colors. Don't know how you can utilize him effectively. I mean, without some type of, because in the Brave and the Bold, they actually have him use some type of laser that shoot out different types of colors and stuff like that. I mean, the episode was really good. But outside of that, it's like I cannot see Crazy Quilt being like I don't know. Depending on the writer, you could probably maybe Tom King or something like that can maybe utilize Crazy Quilt in a very unique way. But all in all, he's very low. Crimson Cavalier, was pretty much like a swashbuckler type of dude. I think he's obviously higher than the guys in the F tier, but it's kind of like Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride if he was like a super villain. So he's just like a great swordsman, and that commits crimes, thievery. Outside of that is not really. But I give it to him the fact that he is like a legit like a formidable opponent if you can write it that way. speaking of swordsman, or swordswoman, Karare from Batman Beyond, she A tier, obviously A tier, because the fact that she went after her own organization once they try to take her out because she failed at her mission, she just turned into full on John Wick and went after them, and she's the only one left. That's a whole nother level of gangster, man. And so I put her very high, A tier. Deacon Blackfire. I think the one he appeared in one comic that I did not read, thing called The Cult, but my first introduction with him was in Batman Arkham Knight. Get rid of a lot of these extra windows. Crap. Oh, let's go here. Joseph Blackfire. After each of his sermons, Blackfire would select members of his audience to be chained below his ministry. He had captured the Batman and kept him drugged and sleep deprived for days in his basement, forcing him to drink drugged water in the hope of converting him to his cult. However, this attempt did not work, leading his followers into Batman's prison. Blackfire preached that the vigilante craved the existence of Gotham's criminal element, wishing to see the city crippled by it only so he could save it. When he challenged his followers to show how wrong Batman's beliefs were by beating him to death, Batman challenged Blackfire to face him alone first. After Batman revealed to the vagrants and other downtrodden that they had been manipulated into joining Blackfire's cause through torture, drugging, and other manipulations, the men turned on Blackfire, challenging him to show them his righteous power. Batman freed himself of his chains, taunting Blackfire until it was clear to all that he was just as a cowardly fraud. It looks like he died at one point and spirit resurfaced. So you got like some kind of magic, possession, spirit physiology. But in most interpretations, he's just like a man, but he has charisma, deception, technical analysis, occultism, theology, leadership. Blackfire is far more likely to have someone else fight his battles than to do so himself. He's a coward. Mental disorder. Blackfire becomes increasingly unstable the more magic he calls upon, as he does not have complete control over the spells he uses. So he's just pretty much like, he's just a priest, pretty much. But just like people worship Batman, like, Blackfire is just like a dark reflection of that in a form of like a priest. So he can't, like I said, I like the interpretation in the Arkham game where he's just like, just enough of a story to fill out a side mission where you can see like, oh, this dude can possibly lead a flock of people to horrific things because of how he carries himself like a priest. He's like a false shepherd in a way. I don't hate the idea. Don't know if anybody can utilize this guy in a unique way. I'm pretty sure it's feasible. But for right now, I'll put him in a D tier. Deadshot, don't need to get too much into it. We all know who Deadshot is. I think I like his interpretation in the Arkham City game or in the comics more so than any other interpretation. Sorry, Will Smith, but this guy is definitely like a lethal threat. Very cool character, and I will put him in an A tier. Very lethal. Now you got not Dollface, Doll something. Dollmaker. The leader of his family, Dollmaker, is a twisted doctor who specializes in organ transplantation. He is responsible for the creation of the twisted abominations made of several different limbs and organs stitched into one. He is also responsible for cutting Joker's face off. Dollmaker is not to be confused with Toyman's son of the same name. Good to know. But honestly, I think he's like a discount version of Professor Pig. He's been in certain things, like I think he was in Smallville at a certain point back in the day, but he doesn't leave much of an impact. So, F tier. Now we got this character, which I use the New 52 interpretation, but kudos to New 52 when they reintroducing Batman and other characters in the DC lineup. Just like in one of the first adventures Batman went on way back in the 30s, Batman tangled with this character called Dr. Death that in the past he was just like a normal scientist, but here he's more like some kind of ghoulish creature. Points to the fact that, you try to like set up for a more modernized way of how Batman was dealing with certain characters in a particular order, but modernizing it. So points to that. But nobody ever used Dr. Death beyond that point. Not even in Rebirth or beyond. So he's just like a two-time use, honestly. At least for what people can remember. I'm pretty sure maybe there's other stuff, but I'm putting like a high F, because at the very least, you just hearken to the origins. Dr. Phosphorus. Now, slight spoilers to the Batman. Their interpretation of Firefly, getting towards the end of the series, eventually turned into Dr. Phosphorus, which is two separate characters, which I did not know that until years after the show had ended. Never agreed when they, certain shows do that or movies do that, where they just combine certain characters. I won't say no narrative reason, but it's, very rare when I come across when somebody do that. I like it. So it all depends on how it's done. But it's pretty much just like utilizing ethereal fire in a sense. I never, read much with Dr. Phosphorus in it, so I can't really say wholeheartedly I'll put him like a low tier or mid tier. So I'm gonna put him like a high D tier list. The Electrocutioner. At least he has something that puts him over the F tier people a bit. But it's still funny to me how Batman just one-shotted this punk, laid his ass out. It was so fun. But the Electro Gauntlets, that is, okay, that's a cool, unique gimmick. But still relatively low. Failsafe. Relatively new villain for Batman, and also one of the other handful of villains that actually beat Batman in a way, where it's just like Batman of Zero Knowledge, unbeknownst to Bruce Wayne, Batman created like a quote unquote failsafe in case Batman ever killed anybody, it will switch on and it will relentlessly take out Batman. It's like the Terminator. It's just, I did a review of the Failsafe comic book arc, which is up on my channel. If you want to hear the in-depth story of what happened, check out that video. But this character is so much fun, and I put him S tier. Incredible use of a new character. Incredible use. Falcone. And I'm using the Nolan version. And I'm sorry, the Matt Reeves version. John Turturro, he's fun. But I think I don't know. It's just slightly more meat to this interpretation of Falcone that I really appreciate. And just the line of, because Nolan does an incredible job with dialogue, where he's just like sitting in the coffee bar with Bruce just stewing in the fact that, how corrupt, Gotham is. And Falcone just lays it out for him. Like, I got everybody in my pocket. Literally the police captain's or commissioner at that time, whoever, was like, no, I got a judge or something like that, was sitting behind him. Like, I got a judge sitting right there, police captain sitting right there. I got, everybody in the pocket. And I wouldn't hesitate to shoot you in the face right here, right now, and not worry about it, because that is real power. And you don't fear what you don't understand. All that stuff was great dialogue. And the actor who played Falcone in this interpretation read that so effortlessly. It was incredible. So I gotta give it up to him. It's like that really highlighted the threat of Falcone in ways that I just like, wow, this dude can snap his fingers and take you out. I'll put him in B tier just for that. And of course, Falcone is highly important in the comics and early on in Batman's career, which he was the central character in what was that? Batman Long Halloween, where they're slowly edging out all these old mobsters that Batman was initially came to Gotham to deal with, but once he started weeding out the police corruption and the gangsters, here comes the supervillains now to kind of counterbalance what Batman brought in, because Batman was a counterbalance to the mobsters. So it's all about escalation and everything like that. Which once again in New 52, Batman Internal, which I really want to do a review of that. Matter of fact, I should put it on the list of, since I'm going over Batman comics right now, I might as well put on a list for that, because Batman Eternal, in a sense, is the reverse of Long Halloween. In a way. So it's like where Falcone was like the central character, which was so unique. Firefly. Garfield Lens. Just like a pyromaniac. Of course, in the animated series, he was cool, but I think in the Batman, really highlights this character in such a way. It was like, he was just a fun dude, just bursting with energy. He's like a Spitfire type of character, which makes sense given, the character's capabilities. I like this interpretation more, but I think in the Arkham Origins games, that interpretation of Firefly was really good too. We just didn't spend too much time with him, so I think I like the Batman series version of Firefly, and I'm putting on B tier. He was really good. His I want to say powers, but his tech and him just being like a gun for hire in a sense, not as something on the level of Deadshot, but in his own right, he's really good, a decent threat. Hugo Strange, also a legit threat. I'm gonna put this A tier, get that out the way, because in many interpretations, if written correctly, he's just a very brilliant, psychiatrist that knows, like, just by probing, can figure things out. He figured out who Batman was, in a very short time, just like with Bane, just by studying the person. Humpty Dumpty from Beware the Batman, or just in many Batman interpretations. I think Beware the Batman really highlighted this low tier character, but I think, like, Beware the Batman did its fair job in trying to highlight very low tier characters instead of utilizing the same old people, which I give it props for. But I think Brave and the Bold did slightly better than that. But it's another discount Toy Man in a way, but put on a low tier. Hush, Thomas Elliott, very lethal. And for, like, more so Bruce Wayne's enemy than Batman's. And just gonna Seth's dude who was pretty much wants Bruce Wayne's life in a way. I'm putting A tier. Very cool character. Ink, S tier. She is a very great written character, great design, lethal in various ways, and one of the few that came close to taking out Terry. Joel Chill. Now, I'm going to put him S tier. Why? Because he was instrumental to setting all this off. He was the domino effect. Now, many interpretations have him regret his actions many years later, like in the Three Jokers comic. But, in terms of setting this chain of events off, I gotta give it to him. He was the one that Batman could not stop. He was that lingering dark cloud over his head for many years. That was the driving force to Batman's, goals and achievements, failures, successes, all that stuff. So, gotta give him S tier for that. KG Beast, which is like, honestly, like a discount version of Bane in a way, in my opinion. While ruthless assassin KG Beast Antonoli Koksinzev was on a mission to assassinate Ronald Reagan, Batman caught his left wrist in a loop of the bat rope, but KG Beast cut off his own hand with an axe in order to escape. He later returns with a cybernetic gun prosthetic attached to his wrist. He was amongst the villains who were, executed by the second Tallyman in Batman Face to Face. So, not very memorable. I mean, the only other time actually, because I've seen like KGB showed up like at least 2 times outside of the comics. That was in the Harley Quinn show and one of the Suicide Squad animated films, the earliest one. But his head got blown off. That's the only times I've seen KG Beast, and neither one really, like, I was impressed by. Maybe in the comics he was a little bit better, but given that he's like a lot more of an expert than anybody in the F tier, I'll put him in D. Seems fair. Killer Croc, very lethal of a villain, very sympathetic as well. I would put him in B. Can't put him A personally because he doesn't rate that high. He's definitely not one of my favorite Batman villains, but I respect him as one of the the biggest and the baddest, but I'll put him in like a B tier. Killer Moth, no interpretation of Killer Moth was ever good. I think the closest one was in Teen Titans, where Robin was going on a prom with Killer Moth's daughter or something like that. Or it could be, misremembering the characters. I think Killer Moth did show up in Teen Titans. I think he is like a decent character. I could be misremembering. I can't remember. But low tier. He's never good. King Cobra, Batman Beyond. I didn't hate him, but he didn't really like wow me. And the Cobra organization was not like, I think it's supposed to be like, the version of Hydra for Marvel, but lamer. But in terms of this character, I at the very least give him like a C. He was all right, very average. King Tut, great if they utilize him, because he's pretty much like a version of Maxie Zeus, where he just sees himself as his, current age of the Pharaoh, King Tut, delusions of grandeur kind of thing. But I think Maxie Zeus was utilized a lot better in the two interpretations from The Batman and the animated series. King Tut, outside of Adam West Batman, never really been utilized all that much at all. So I'm going to put him in like a F tier. Kite Man, I like the voice actor. I do not like the character. But to be fair, I did have some enjoyment out of him, so I could give it credit where credit is due. But I'll just give him C. Just to be fair. Don't hate him. Don't love him. He's only right in that line between me completely being annoyed of the character and just want to write him off to like, okay, he does something that kind of draws me back in. Lady Shiva. There's a lot of, Al Ghul's on this list. So, in terms of the League of Assassins, I'm going with Lady Shiva, and Alyssa Al Ghul, A tier. Because after, like, say what you will with the, DCCW shows, they fairly handle a lot of the iconic characters to an extent, a lot more than you might see in this day and age. But they at least honored the characters' origins to some degree. They didn't change them too radically. But the Al Ghuls are always formidable. Not somebody they always know the heroes or secret identities. Don't really exploit it. They just have that at least that level of respect. But they also so lethal that you do not want to go toe to toe with them. They are trained up the wazoo, where like you would not want to be in like a fight with them. Do not even try unless you're, up to par in terms of hand-to-hand combat. Do not try. So Ra's al Ghul, Liam Neeson obviously version, and Talia, S tier. Now you're gonna, but the Al Ghuls are gonna be up very high. Lockup, very underrated episode, introducing this character where he just like has a grudge against his villains, where he just pretty much like a former police officer or security officer, just abusing his power essentially to, hurt or brutalize criminals when they're already in custody, especially, and, obsessed with keeping villains locked up in a way. Lyle Bolton. They need to utilize this character a lot more, especially in recent years with police brutality and all this other stuff. And you can utilize this character in a myriad of ways this day and age. But despite my ideas, I want to look at it through what it is for real. But so he is gonna be D until they do something with this character in a unique way. I can't bump it up any higher than that. Mad Stan, fun character, never utilized all that well in my opinion. So it's gonna be another D character. Mad Stan from Batman Beyond. Magpie, very, very fun, crazy, proto Harley Quinn in a sense, but like a proto Harley Quinn, proto Catwoman merged into one, where she's obsessed with stealing things, shiny, shiny. That is tattooed in my brain the way she's delivered that lines. Very incredible character. Has so much fun with Magpie. Is he a B or C? Because as fun as I have with her, screw it. I'll put it B. She's a B. Man-Bat. I use the version in the Batman series because it has so much detail in it, and the proportion was so off with the Arkham game version of Man-Bat, and the episode on Leather Wings in the animated series version of Man-Bat doesn't have enough detail. But what I don't like in the Batman series is where you took away the fact that he had like a love interest that helped him try to find his humanity, but now he's just kind of like a mad scientist, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing going on. But outside of that, Man-Bat is a solid villain, just the bat portion, not the human portion. But I'll put it like a C. Boss Maroni, not on the same level as Falcone, but he had like a important part to play in the Long Halloween, and then he definitely got like a boost because of the Gotham TV show. But it didn't, like, Falcone really got more of the spotlight in terms of the gangsters than Maroni. Maroni seems like he's playing catch up to Falcone in a lot of ways. So I'll put, him in a D. Max Shreck. They really need to utilize Max Shreck in the comics, because he could easily be like, just like with like Hush or what else? Hush or Penguin can be a threat to Bruce Wayne's side of things. Max Shreck should also be kind of like that in terms of in business and everything like that. Because Christopher Walken really sold that character for me, and it's a shame they didn't incorporate this character in the comics, because he can be like a serious threat, like a Justin Hammer for the DC universe, whereas like Batman, Bruce Wayne isn't the only top dog in Gotham, selling, like, in terms of scientific advancements in terms of technology and stuff like that. Max Shreck, not only does that, but also solid weapons, so it makes him slightly richer than Bruce because of that situation. So it's constantly at odds with each other. They could have done something like that with this character. He's fun, but it's also thanks to Christopher Walken. But because I have so much love with Batman Returns, it's very high in terms of my favorite Batman films of all time, I'm going to at least put him at B. Maxie Zeus. I love, from both TV series interpretation of Maxie Zeus, but I think they've done a little bit better in The Batman, where he actually has like a suit that allows him to control electrical powers. He doesn't have powers, but allows him to wield electricity in a way to make him feel like the Greek god Zeus. But they don't really utilize him all that well outside of those, one episode from that show and the one episode from the other show. But you can do a lot with this guy. But I'll put him at C. Just a fair average. Mr. Freeze. Well, I wanted to put like the animated series version, but I really like the design of the Batman version. But I'll put Mr. Freeze in S tier, honestly. Mainly because of like Heart of Ice and how good that was. Owlman, easy S tier. I love Owlman. Every time I get a kick out of it, every time DC does something with this character, like in Brave and the Bold or Crisis on Two Earths, because James Woods really sold that character for me, and just the nihilism and just the only other person on par with Batman can easily take him out. Payback from Batman Batman Beyond. Just a kid in like a high-tech suit to deal with people he views as bullies. Not a bad idea, but could have done something a lot more with this guy. Probably the only F tier from Batman Beyond I'm put there, because it doesn't really. As a kid, I probably liked him. I liked him a little bit more than that. As a kid, I probably would have put him in D tier, but looking at it through adult eyes, I could see the point of the character, but it didn't really wow me. The Penguin. If it was just Danny DeVito, I'll put him A tier because I love his interpretation of the Penguin. But, well, Penguin got really a boost in popularity in the past couple of years. And it has been done a lot with him. So, you know what? I'll put him A tier. Give, the Penguin A tier. Like, he's earned that. He's not just like a fat guy with like a trick umbrella. He is like a legit threat as like a true crime boss with a gimmick. Pink Flamingo, like with Crazy Quilt, and I think at least with Crimson Cavalier, he's actually a legit like swordsman. But Pink Flamingo, it's like what are you, acrobat? Like what? Eduardo Flamingo. He was one of the hitmen hired by Cluemaster to neutralize Stephanie Brown. Acrobatics, hand-to-hand combat, intimidation, martial arts, mental disorder. Flamingo is a cannibal. He loves to eat his victims' faces. Oh, I didn't know that about the Pink Flamingo. I thought he was just some kind of crazy acrobat. Wow, I did not know that one. Wow, they really need to you got someone like this guy who could be easily a threat. Holy crap. But he really doesn't get that much shine, so I'll just give him an F tier. Poison Ivy. If I was going to utilize an image from Batman and Robin, I was going to go with, because either that interpretation of Poison Ivy, because I think Uma Thurman with better material would have sold this performance, because honestly, she was the it girl at that time, so it would have made sense to cast her at that time it was a good, people thought probably was like an awesome casting selection, but just the material sucked. She didn't have much to work with. She made what she could out of it, and honestly, I did like, on some level, look, no shame here, no judgment. I like Uma Thurman's interpretation of Poison Ivy. Sue me. I'm sorry. I like her. But the only other interpretation of Poison Ivy that I liked was from the animated series and from the comics itself. And I kind of wish they really kind of like toned down the horniness her and Harley have for each other a bit, where they actually make them like a stable relationship and not so like get out of the honeymoon phase. I think we get past that. Just make them like a standard couple and not make two bones about it. Like they gotta be all over each other because they gotta show how much they really love each other. Like Batman loves Catwoman too, but they ain't like, about to hump each other every chance they get. It's like a, or even like better example, Clark and Lois. Every time they see each other, they ain't always all over each other and like about to hump over Lois Lane's desk or anything like that. It's like, this is like a normal relationship that they have like a normal sex life. Treat Harley and Ivy like a normal couple and not some, interpretation of what you think lesbians act like. But she's also a scientist. She knows, botany. At least they don't shy away from that fact with Poison Ivy, but they definitely tend to forget that Harley is a therapist from time to time. But Poison Ivy, and I'm just incorporating every interpretation of Poison Ivy, I'm going to put her B tier. Polka Dot Man, F tier. I never like any version of Polka Dot Man. He sucks a lot. He's only maybe slightly better because of James Gunn, but even then, never got the hype with him when that movie came out. It's only because that actor was in God knows every little interpretation of DC from movies or TV shows. Professor Pig, just kind of like another serial killer, but he's definitely a serial killer that definitely left like an impact more so than like Pink Flamingo or whatever. He's only like like slightly below like Joker or Killer Croc, but I will put him C. He's very average for me. Prometheus, just like some kind of like a Owlman type of guy where it's like he had no bones about hurting people kind of thing, where it's like a combination of Hush and Owlman in terms of another person who utilized their fortune to become a vigilante but for all the wrong reasons kind of thing. Definitely can be utilized in a myriad of ways, but so far it's never been impressed by anything with him. It's only so far as I only know him from or seen him in action was from the comics, and when I did, it was never impressive. Ratcatcher, like the actress, but outside that, no interpretation of Ratcatcher was ever impressive. Repeller from Batman Beyond, he was all right. So when he's all right, he's obviously meaning C. Roxy Rocket, this girl was a freak. I really wish, because I'm glad they don't, because like the first time I saw her was in the animated series, but I was so happy to see her in Justice League Action, where she had like an episode for herself, and I was like, oh, that is dope. Like, I'm glad somebody remembered Roxy Rocket, because she's just like a thrill seeker, but she's so much fun. I'm gonna put slightly very low tier in terms of B, just for the fun factor. Royal Flush Gang, while only utilizing the Batman Beyond version of the Royal Flush Gang, because all previous versions or versions around that Batman Beyond version, never impressive. They only had probably like that one scene in a particular animated movie, or that one scene in that one particular episode from other Batman stuff they don't really utilize. Oh, I mean, Justice League Unlimited had like a couple episodes with the Royal Flush Gang, but they didn't have like the impact that Batman Beyond did when it comes to flushing, no pun intended, these guys out. It had like a romantic interest with 10, and you see the wedge between King and Queen having in their relationship. You was invested in this family, royal family type, but still fairly average. As a matter of fact, I'm putting like just slightly above Curare, just high C's. Rupert Thorne, like Max Schreck, they could have utilized this guy a lot more, but at least there's like the animated series version of the comic book where he's utilized way more. But this guy is like a pretty solid crime boss, and just the nostalgic factor that he left like a big impact in a lot of people's childhoods. I would put Rupert Thorne at the high B's just because of what he's contributed in terms of Batman lore. Scarecrow, A tier, not even on the front. Mostly because of Cillian Murphy. I'm sorry. It's like I like most other interpretations of Scarecrow, but they never really, in the anime series, they never really pinned down a solid look for a Scarecrow. They keep changing it every time we see the guy. And yes, it gets progressively scarier with the costume, but I think Cillian Murphy really made that character his own, and he is the Scarecrow in my opinion. And that burlap sack look from Nolan trilogy, that's my interpretation of Scarecrow. That's mine. But the anime series is like a good runner-up. Shriek, A tier for me. I like Shriek. Awesome character. Just like a bitter dude. He was a gun for hire, but then got bitter because he got death by Batman from fighting him. And so now he's just gung-ho about just taking him out. But his suit is such a cool design and powerful. One of his most powerful enemies in his Rose Gallery. Solomon Grundy. In terms of brutes, he's very high up. So I'll definitely put him in B. Like low B. Spellbinder, A tier. I love Spellbinder. He's just pretty much like what Scarecrow does with fear toxin, he does with hypnosis, because he's just another therapist or psychologist with a skill in hypnotism, which makes him so much of a lethal threat because of his use of illusions. Skulker, pretty much Terry McGinnis's Kraven the Hunter, basically. Cool character, honestly. I really like every time I see this guy on screen. But compared to like Ink, Spellbinder, and Shriek, he would be B, honestly. Because, yeah, he's just a hunter. These guys actually have like some solid powers. I mean, of course, Spellbinder has tech, but his use of hypnotism is a whole nother level. And Skulker has some enhanced cybernetics to make him very agile and stuff like that. But it doesn't compare to the other three. Starro. Very average. He's definitely a threat. And whenever he pops up is very much for unique purposes, and is usually like Brave and the Bold or Batman Beyond is usually like a two-parter, because it's like an alien that's planning on global takeover from 9 times out of 10. So I mean, it's very fun, and of course James Gunn utilized Starro in a very unique way that can't hate on it at all. So, but he's very average in my opinion in terms of villains. Talon, Court of Owls assassin, I'll put it right up there. Matter of fact, right next to the court themselves. They pretty much go hand in hand. The Terrific Trio, pretty much like Batman Beyond's version of the Terrible Trio. I'm gonna put them in D because they just discount version of the Fantastic Four. It wasn't really that impressive for me. Only slightly felt bad for them given the circumstances of how they got their powers. But the Terrible Trio, right away, F tier. They suck. The Batman Who Laughs. Now, yes, he was definitely overplayed for quite a while. But in terms of creation and the design, and I was toying with the idea of putting the other, evil versions of Batman like Speed Demon or the Drown or the others or Murder Machine and stuff like that. I was tempted to put them also on the list, but given the fact that the Batman Who Laughs solely went after Bruce Wayne, while like the Drown went after Aquaman and Speed Demon. Not Speed Demon, but Red Death. I'm sorry. Red Death went after the Flash. So I didn't want to put him on the list. So Batman Who Laughs, because everything around him and his origins and DC's Metal, one of my favorite Justice League events, I rank him S tier. He has to be. He has to be. Temple Fugit, the Clock King. I hate to do this, but I gotta put him in D. Like the episodes I've seen him in, I have fun with the episodes, but he doesn't rank too high to even put into C. In all honesty, he's just a normal guy with like usually clock gimmicks, like clock gadgets and stuff like that, and he utilizes preciseness of time very well to get an advantage over people, but not enough for me to like break him too high. It's kind of crazy that Kite Man's over Clock King and Cluemaster. The Jokers from Batman Beyond, this gang, because if I had to put it like a gang, because they're technically a rogues gallery, because they do pop up every once in a while in Batman Beyond, so I had to count them. The Jokers, D, because they're just thugs, and if you're decent in a fight, you can easily fight them off, honestly. And they're more so followers. They're not like a legit organized gang like Falcone or Moroni's gangs. Like they're legit mafia dons. They have some level of organization, which Jokers don't. They just do crap. They thugs. Hell, even the Royal Flush gang operate on some level of order and strategy. Mad Hatter, A tier, right next to Spellbinder. He's just a Spellbinder kind of guy, or at least Spellbinder is just a Mad Hatter in a way, without the Alice in Wonderland stuff. I'm going to show my bias here because I said many times on this channel, the Riddler is one of my favorite villains of all time, and I'm going to put him in the S tier. Sue me. You can rank him however you want to, but I love the Riddler. Ever since Jim Carrey, I got so invested in the character of the Riddler. And I really wish, writers would utilize him a lot more, but they keep using that same complaint. Like, it's so hard making, like, riddles and, like, brain teasers and stuff like that. The Arkham games did, like, so well where they didn't really utilize all that much riddles, but it's more so on the puzzles that was the gimmick. You could have just done that. And then, boom, you got the Riddler. The Ventriloquist, I never was a fan of the Ventriloquist or Scarface, but when it's utilized, if the writing is there, it can be fun. So, just to be fair, I'll put him at C. Fairly average. White Rabbit, I don't know what's up with this character, but DC has been like, whenever they get the chance to, somebody always trying to shove White Rabbit in our faces. Don't know why, because she just she normally, and Tweedledee and Tweedledum tend to work with Mad Hatter, but not enough to make it impressive in any stretch of the imagination. So they're gonna be F tier. Two-Face, specifically the animated series version, which kind of ties for me in terms of favorite iteration with Nolan's Two-Face, but went with the animated series. So I put him in A tier. Victor Zsasz, with the Gotham interpretation of him, didn't care for the version in Birds of Prey or in the Arkham games, to be fair. But this actor really made Victor Zsasz scary, charming, and hilarious from time to time. But I will just put him at, I'll put him at C. Given the fact that, yeah, he's just like a serial killer, but, God, he can be very lethal. But he's typically, like, in the Gotham's TV show and in the Birds of Prey movie, he's like also muscle, but he get to utilize his sadistic need to carve, marks on him every time he make a kill. So, that adds the level of, fear to him. And then finally, Willie Watt from Batman Beyond. Cool arc with this character where it's a scrawny kid that utilizes some kind of moving golem machine, but now got psychic abilities and got buff. Where it's just pretty much like a small kid who got bullied all his whole life, and then now it's like internalized that and made and turned himself into a villain because of that kind of stuff. So very interesting arc of this kid. Sad ending to this kid's story. But doesn't leave the impact like Ink, Shriek, Spellbinder, or even Stalker, or Royal Flush Gang, as a matter of fact, or Repel. So I won't put him at D at the very least. He's not terrible, and I love his arc. So here we are.
Life's a bitch. Now so am I.
Here is my overall ranking, ladies and gentlemen. In S tier, Bane, Batmite, Blight, Joker, Failsafe, Ink, Joe Chill, Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul, Mr. Freeze, Owlman, Batman Who Laughs, Riddler. A tier, Anarchy, Clayface, Court of Owls, Talon, Curare, Deadshot, Hugo Strange, Hush, Lady Shiva, Elisa Al Ghul, Penguin, Scarecrow, Shriek, Spellbinder, Mad Hatter, Two-Face. B tier, Rupert Thorne, Control Freak, Baby Doll, Calendar Man, Falcone, Firefly, Killer Croc, Magpie, Shrek, Max Shrek, Poison Ivy, Roxy Rocket, Solomon Grundy, Stalker. C tier, Copperhead, Black Mass, Royal Flush Gang, Curare, or Chimera, King Cobra, Kite Man, Man-Bat, Maxi Zeus, Professor Pig, Repel, Starro, Ventriloquist, Victor Zsasz. D tier, Phosphorus, Clue Master, Commissioner Loeb, Crimson Cavalier, Deacon Blackfire, Electrocutioner, KG Beast, Lockup, Mad Stan, Maroni, Prometheus, Terrific Trio, Clock King, Jokers, Willie Watt. And F tier, Dr. Death, Blockbuster, Catman, Condiment King, Crazy Quilt, Dollmaker, Humpty Dumpty, Killer Moth, King Tut, Payback, Pink Flamingo, Polka Dot Man, Rat Catcher, terrible trio, White Rabbit and Tweedledee and Tweedledum. That is my Batman Rose Gallery tier list done. And this is probably the longest tier list ranking I've done on this channel. And of course, there are other Batman villains that he took on, but usually they're like one-offs or associated with these other villains in a way that didn't really leave an impact or shake up or anything like that. Or I have to leave out Catwoman or Harley Quinn because they're at this point heroes in their own right. So I can't really count them as villains anymore. So I kind of whittled it down to just these 86 characters, which also includes Batman Beyond villains, because I wanted to talk about them too. So those are my rankings. So you can leave a comment below. Let me know, how would you rank these, where I might be off, or which ones I might be on the money about. But yeah, that was my tier list ranking. That was fun. Make sure I gotta adjust this. But yeah, hour and a half. Wow, that was like a long one. But I will see you guys next time, where I'll be getting back to, playing some more games. So look forward to that. And I will see you all soon. Take care. Have a pleasant night. Be well.